Hello, everyone. This is Jay Dobbins, your host of the Marvel DC Universe Fan Club, and we are now at episode 35. And I'll be reviewing two movies: one, Guardians of the Galaxy, and of course, Sleight. So, I'll be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy first. Spoiler alert: if you have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy or Sleight, please do not listen to this podcast. Just know you guys have been warned. So, spoiler alert. But I did see Guardians of the Galaxy the other night, and I also saw Slight the other night. But as far as Guardians of the Galaxy goes, I thought that it was good. I mean, I wouldn't say very good, but it was good enough to buy on iTunes when it comes out. So it was also funny. There was a lot of humor. You know, and of course, the Stan Lee cameo was very funny too. So, and but yeah, at the beginning, starts off as Rocket, and Star Lord, Gamora, little baby Groot, and Drax. They were all hired by, can't remember what those gold people are called, but to protect the whatever station that was that had the batteries, because that monster squid deal fed off batteries. So while while the rest of the Guardians are fighting this monster, Groot is just pretty much just dancing around. So yeah, that was funny. While they were fighting the monsters, we were all focused on Groot. So and there was a flashback, or there was a picture. I'm sorry, not picture, but it was a flashback of the year 1980, and it was taking place in Missouri. So Star-Lord's mother was living in Missouri, and that's where she met Kurt Russell, who was I guess the younger version of himself, but it was all done in CGI, but you could still tell it was him. So it was taking place, in Missouri. And the reason why it was taking place in Missouri is because Sean, what's that dude's name? James Gunn, who written and directed the film. I'm guessing him and his brother Sean Gunn, who played Kraglin, one of Yondu's men, in the film. I mean, so I remember when I met Sean Gunn at Planet Comic Con last year, or no, it was 2015, 2 years ago. When I met him 2 years ago, he was, of course, I found out he was from St. Louis, Missouri. So, yeah, him and his brother are from St. Louis, which was why the scene where Star-Lord's mother was driving off with Kurt Russell, who played Star-Lord's father, Egon. So, yeah, it was, that's the reason why it was shot in Missouri. So, in case y'all are wondering, James Gunn and his brother, James Gunn, who wrote and directed the film, is from Missouri, and his brother, Sean Gunn, who played Kraglin, Yondu's men, was is from St. Louis as well. So that's why. And of course, you find out that when they back to the monster deal. When they defeat the monster, they were rewarded something, which was Nebula. So Nebula was captured by the gold people. I can't remember what you call those beings, but yeah, she was captured by them, and then they released her and just gave them to the Guardians for them to handle. So they were going to take her to Nova Prime, or Nova Corps, what do you call it? And I guess she was going to be arrested and tried or whatever. So then Rocket steals the batteries, which was a no-no. So the gold people find out, and the queen of the gold people, Aisha, sends some spaceships after them, which they weren't in. They were controlling them in their little station or planet, pretty much. So while that's going on, you have, they're blowing up all the ships and stuff like that, and then more show up, and then Kurt Russell saves them and just blows up all the ships at once. So they let and then they find somewhere to land, and then that's when Kurt Russell finally meets Egon or Ego, sorry Ego, finally meets Star Lord and says, "Oh, I'm your father." So he's like, "What?" So then you find out later on that Ego he's Terran, but he's full blood Terran, but Star Lord is half human, half Terran. So, and then of course Mantis, who reads emotions, and that's when she was introduced into that, and now I believe that she's going to be in the Infinity War movie, pretty much. Um, so, yes, Sylvester Stallone made an appearance in the film. So, uh, yeah, just a little small part. She was, he was one of the Ravengers, pretty much. So you have that, and then I'll try and make this as short as possible. Um, one of Yondu's men turns on him. He becomes a one of the was it Taserface or Laserface becomes the leader, kills all most of Yondu's men, the ones who were loyal towards him. So, and then the only person that was left alive was really Kraglin. So Kraglin was like, telling Yondu, "Oh yeah, they killed all my friends, stuff like that." So yeah, and then Nebula, she did her thing. She figured she helped the Ravengers. She get her little ship or whatever they go just to find Gamora. So yeah, they were like Rocket. He was pretty funny, but yeah, he was him and Yondu were captured, and then um, you know Kraglin, played by Sean Gunn, gave him back his fin, and his fin, and that fin he had one fin he that was used to control that little arrow that he you know uses when he whistles. So that's also his power, or whatever. Also, you find out later on that Kurt Russell is not who he says he is. So it turns out he had a lot of children, killed them all because they didn't have that power that he needed to for immortality, or not immortality, but to control all the planets or whatever, or destroy all the planets. And then so yeah, you find it turns out that Kurt Russell, who plays Ego. Just want to let you guys know that in comic books, Ego is a planet. So that belonged. I think that was for Silver Surfer or whatever. And because Marvel Studios used their Quicksilver for the Avengers movie, and then you had Fox use Negasonic Teenage Girl or whatever for their movie, they decided, you know, well, no, when they used Negasonic Teenage Girl for the Deadpool movie, which was owned by Fox. Marvel Studios was like, okay, since you took our Negasonic Teenage Girl, we're gonna, you can give us something. So they decided to use Ego, which is a planet, pretty much in the comic books, but but in the movie, Kurt Russell, or Ego was a Terran, a little being, I guess energy, I guess, and the planet was his source. So if the planet dies, he dies. But luckily for Star Lord, he was half human, half Terran, so which explains why he was able to hold on to that purple Infinity Stone in the first one. But so yeah, it turns out Ego was the main antagonist, and when they were when Kraglin, Yondu, and Rocket and Groot were trying to head to that planet, they had a time warp to 700 planets or whatever, and then one of the planets that they warped through was a planet that Stan Lee was on, so he did a little cameo, and he was talking in his cameo. He was talking to the, I guess, beings. Actually, they look like one of them looked like the Watcher. Actually, as a matter of fact, all of them look like the Watcher. So I guess they use that too. But so I hope Fox doesn't chew them up for that, because the Watcher is a character in the Silver Surfer comic books. So yeah, I don't know what Fox is giving them rights to nowadays, but hopefully they don't take Fantastic Four and X-Men away from Fox. So, but yeah. And then so you had that, but yeah, Ego was the main antagonist. They get into a fight, and then Groot, he took the bomb, and then he realizes that because he was like, oh, I am Groot, and then Rocket told him not to press that button. So he ended up not pressing that button, and he told him to press the button that gives you 5 minutes, not the button that blows up the bomb immediately. So, and turns out the brain was the core of that planet. So I'm guessing that was Ego's source. So Groot pressed the button that set it off for 5 minutes. I mean that it set it for 5 minutes, and then boom, destroys the planet, destroys Ego, and everybody went on the ship except for Star-Lord and Yondu, and they were kind of left behind. But then Yondu was able to save the day by using the rocket and a shield thing that allowed him to breathe in space. So got Star-Lord out, so saved him, but then he sacrificed himself by giving the force field thing they were in space, giving the force field thing to Star-Lord. So therefore, Yondu froze in space, and now he's dead. So rest in peace, Yondu. I was pretty upset that Yondu died, but yeah, I was hoping he would be in the Avengers Infinity War, but now that he's dead, I guess not. So, but hopefully Kraglin, played by Sean Gunn, will, be in the Infinity War movie, since he's the only Ravager in Yondu's group that's left alive, pretty much. But yeah, they had a little proper funeral for um, Yondu, so I was pretty, I was pretty happy about that. So Star Lord called all the Ravengers, let them know this is what Yondu did. So Yondu's memory was honored pretty much by Sylvester Stallone and other Ravengers. So they all came together as one now instead of separate. So, but yeah, that was it was good. Yondu sacrificed himself. He finally did something good, and now he's honored, and he forever be remembered as a hero. So, and just want to let you know that there were more than two after credits in the film. I think there were at least 3 or 4, but they say it was supposed to be 5. One of them was when Stan Lee was talking to the Watchers, 3 different Watchers or whatever, and they were leaving. So he's like, "Hey, I need a ride. I got more stories to tell or whatever." So he's like, "Oh, geez." So I don't know if he gets off that planet or not, but it looked like he was stuck there. And then there was another one where Kraglin was using Yondu's fin to control the whistle. He was whistling for that thing, the arrow, that belonged to Yondu, and he accidentally impaled Drax, stuck him pretty much. So then Drax is screaming, and then Kraglin runs pretty much. Uh, oh, then Groot. Another after credit scene was when Groot grows finally, and he's playing video games, and Star Lord's telling him to clean up his room because he's tripping on twigs and stuff like that. And I'm guessing he now understands what Groot's saying now, pretty much. Uh, let's see. There was another interesting credit where, oh, the Gold Queen Aisha is frustrated that she couldn't destroy the Guardians, and there was something that was in a chamber or tube or pod or whatever, and she was talking about her latest creation, Adam. So now I'm guessing that's going to be Adam Warlock. Just a guess, since she said Adam. I mean, I can't think of any other Adams except for Warlock. So, and I'm guessing he's going to be the one that has the orange Infinity Stone. So, um, well, I don't know, but yeah, I'm guessing Adam Warlock will make an appearance in the Infinity War movie, Part One. Um, so, yeah, that concludes this topic. Guardians of the Galaxy is now playing in theaters and, of course, in the IMAX. So, I'm going to briefly talk about. Oh, sorry, that concludes this topic. I'm going to briefly talk about Sleight. So, Sleight. I'm going to be brief about it because it was pretty much 90 minutes. So, spoiler alert: if you haven't seen Sleight, do not listen to this podcast. You've been warned. So, Sleight was very decent. I'll give it a 89%. It was very draggy, but you kind of wonder, like, he's supposed to be a magician, so you kind of wonder, like, how the heck is he doing that? He was able to move things, but it turns out it was his right hand was electromagnetic or whatever. He put something in his arm and charged it up like a battery. So, but yeah, it's about a magician, um, played by Jacob Lattimore. Uh, he's a newcomer. The movie was made by WWE Studios. Um, but yeah, it was about a young magician who was who was pretty much taking care of his little sister. So he was also a drug dealer, and he was also a magician. So he pretty much was doing that to make money, and he was trying to get out, pretty much. He also he pretty much played as the guy who was his boss or whoever was doing the who he was working for, screwed him over, and he had to give up at least $45,000. So at least in for like a whole week he was you know trying to raise the money. So he was doing that by doing magic tricks, selling the dope, and uh, all that jazz. So he finally got some of that money, but then he didn't get the money at midnight, like on a Monday at midnight, like as promised. So the drug dealer and his boys were looking for him, and it turns out he wasn't there because he was next door with his neighbor with his sister. So he told him, he hit him up on his phone, saying, "Where are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I need more time." He's like, now you're gonna owe me another 5,000, and then he takes off. But then the next day, the guy tries to pick his sister up. The magician tried to pick his sister up from work, and then turns out she was kidnapped. So then he goes to his mentors, and he reveals his little power that he has, magic or whatever, and then he charges his arm up like a battery. So he comes into the drug dealer's house and picks a fight with his boys, and then the drug dealer comes down, and then he shoots him, and he stops fired 3 shots and didn't hit him. So he used that bullet. He used that to stop the bullets. The little magnetic thing that he was electromagnetic field that he was doing with his arm. I mean, it's very hard to explain how he did it, but if you watch the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyway, so he took one bullet and then controlled that and then put it to his face, and he was kind of digging it through his skin and it on his forehead. And he was asking where his sister was. So he wouldn't tell him, and he kept trying to go deeper, and then he eventually just told him, okay, his sister's at his auntie's house. You know, I mean, the drug dealer said that the guy's sister was at, you know, the guy's auntie's house. So he stopped, didn't kill him, gave him $15,000, which he pretty much owed him anyway, and then just left. So he's like, okay, fine, just get out of here. So he, him and his girlfriend picked up his sister, and they moved to San Diego. So then later on, in the middle of the night, his girlfriend's sleeping. She gets up, goes into the other room, and she sees a whole bunch of light in that room. So we couldn't see what this guy was actually doing. People were talking about that being a superhero movie, but honestly, I don't think that was a superhero movie. It's kind of, I mean, he must have been doing something. So we'll hopefully, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they should do a sequel. I think the first one, I think this one's good enough as it is. So hopefully, I think they should just leave it alone. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So Guardians of the Galaxy gets I say 95%, and then Sleight gets a 89%. So, but yep, we're done for today. Feel free to visit us and like us on Facebook. We're available on iTunes and the Google Play